Hey guys, back again for another Resident Evil related video. Today we'll be covering the more leaked information on Resident Evil 8, if it be correct or not, and what the big Resident Evil announcement was come from the ambassador program that we saw a few weeks back. So first of all, I'd just like to apologise for how long it's taken me to get this out. I am a few days behind where I'd like to be with the Resident Evil 8 announcements. But let's just get this going and carry on. Hopefully in the future I'll be able to do the videos as the news comes out. So I'm going to start with the ambassador program and the stuff that's come from there, because we were all waiting for this big announcement and it's not as impressive as we thought. It's good news for those ambassadors like myself. So basically Capcom informed all ambassadors that there was going to be an announcement yesterday, so on the 10th I believe it was. We all expected this to be Resident Evil 8 related, maybe Resident Evil 3 remake related with DLC, or even, the next remake or something like that was going to come down. Unfortunately for the general public, what actually happened was they updated the ambassador program, and they unlocked the platinum tier of rewards. So yeah, that was it. Not much. So let's move on to the big and exciting stuff that's come down recently, which is all around Resident Evil 8 and the possible information that's come, possible information that has been leaked. What I would like to say was, I'm going to give you a spoiler warning here in case any of it is actually true, as there is some storyline leaks here as well. So the information I'm using here is coming from Biohazard Declassified, but I have seen it from previous other sources before it came down here. So they put a disclaimer on here saying, yeah, have not confirmed it, blah 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 blah, as per usual. So what we're going to look at here is some of the storyline information. So we've got information on antagonists, we've got information on the actual gameplay, new playable characters, and stuff like that. So let's just have a quick read through and we'll see what they're doing here. So one thing is to tell you now, there is no magic at use. They're looking at a cult that worships abominations created from the new virus. At first there will be hints that something supernatural is happening and you'll probably have hallucinations like they were looking at the original Resident Evil 4. This is all covered by the virus, which is airborne, that causes hallucinations from time to time. So it looks like whoever you are playing, be that Ethan, Chris, or whatever, is actually going to be infected at the time because of the hallucinations with the virus being airborne. So it will still be a biohazard related game before all those people start kicking off and go, oh, ghosts on Resident Evil, it's not a Resident Evil game. So the antagonists, what we've heard here is that the main villain in the game is going to be called Alan R. So I think that removes our previous theory of Alan from Resident Evil 7. He is a mysterious count living in a castle. He is the leader, or at least a high up ranking member of the Connections, which is from Resident Evil 7. So on top of that, so it looks like that's the path we're going down now. It looks like Umbrella is kind of done for, maybe, unless Connections is part of something Umbrella related, because there was a file in Spencer's mansion, in Resident Evil 5 that Spencer were in, which said he'd actually planned for the downfall of Umbrella and had already put in place stuff to expand into this new thing. So the Connections could actually have been Spencer's original plan that's been taken up by somebody else. There will be a secondary villain, which is Alex Wesker. So obviously one of the Wesker children. I think we've only ever seen her before in Revelations 2. A lot of people have been wanting the Wesker name to reappear, be it Albert or not. There are also many files hinting that Blue Umbrella is not as clean as they portray themselves to be. So maybe Connections and Blue Umbrella are linked. Maybe Blue Umbrella is actually being led by Alex Wesker or something. We don't know. So on top of that, it looks like we are having a new playable character. Parts of the game are to be played as a mountain resident called Emily, a woman in her late 20s who aids Ethan. She is looking for her father. Emily grew up in the village and will assist Ethan and later work with him to find her father and escape. So it looks like they're going to be our two playable characters. They're going to be Ethan and Emily, if this information is to be correct. Still looks like we're kind of making Ethan our new main character in the series. I would like a bit more information about him. I hope this game leads upon, because obviously we don't really know much about him. Resident Evil 7 didn't give us much of the backstory, which is why a lot of theories have come out about him, including is he a member of Umbrella. Flashlight will play a large role, so it's going to be similar to maybe an old style Silent Hill. You have a flashlight in the game, it's often pretty dark, forcing you to use it, akin to many other games that are in the same genre. The flashlight can run out of batteries, but will slowly recharge itself over time. So that's like a lot of survival horror games in the past. And I will reiterate again, this is not official information. This information that I'm using at the moment is coming from Biohazard Declassified. It is just rumours. So locations, so aside from the village, we're also going to have castles, caves and forests, and large outdoor areas. So I'm kind of hoping that's not going to end up with such open areas that we get more of a Gears of War style game. I would expect it to be more like how they planned the original Resident Evil 4, but obviously it's going to be in first person view again. So, the rumours that were related around Chris Redfield being the villain have been expanded upon in this. And again, this is probably the biggest possible spoiler here, so if you're concerned about spoilers, please turn this video off now or skip through. So, and this is actually probably the biggest thing for me, and I'll actually discuss this as we go. So, Mia and Ethan have had a child. Due to their infections during Resident Evil 7, it is deformed and by all counts not a normal child. They live a pretty lonely life in a remote place and try to hide their child. However, Chris Redfield breaks into Ethan's house, ending in the execution of Ethan's mutant child, followed by shooting Mia. Apparently, he is operating on his own and is not part of an official operation. When Ethan wakes up, Chris is gone. He did not leave Mia to die, but bandaged her. There are some shadowy figures in a room. Ethan is abducted there and wakes up in the village. So, what I'm getting, if you can hear my kids, sorry, I apologise. Sorry about that, that's the life of having children. So welcome back everybody. So as we were discussing, it looks like Chris Redfield is going to be responsible for the death of Ethan and Mia's child. I personally do not believe this, but I can see the possibilities here. So if it was Chris from Resident Evil 6, where we would be expecting, you know, he's completely hung up on everything, he turns into an alcoholic and everything else that's there, I could kind of see this happening where he's operating on his own. But with the glimpses that we see from Chris in Resident Evil 7, he seems completely reformed. The fact that he is there to save Ethan, and the compassion stuff, and he, you know, the little speech that he gives where he says, "Oh, I'm glad we got here in time," blah blah blah. I can't see him reacting in this way. The fact that it also says that he is working alone, I can't see him splitting off and being alone. He'd surely know that if he was to act on something like this, the characters of Jill, Claire, Leon, etc. would completely be against this with the act of attacking a child. But yes, mutated, but is not showing any evil will or any, you know, anything else as far as we know. And surely if they were showing this, then the other characters would have been involved, the BSAA would have been involved, etc. So the other thing around this is where it says Ethan wakes up, Chris is gone. He did not leave Mia to die, but bandaged her. Well, first of all, I don't understand why he'd shoot Mia to then save her, unless it was related to maybe she was trying to defend the child, she got in the way, or something like that. He didn't actually want her to die. Yeah, fair enough, okay. But it's this bit here, there are some shadowy figures in the room. Ethan is abducted and then wakes up in the village. So as the virus stated before, is supposed to cause hallucinations. I'm wondering if Chris isn't even in this game and this is all hallucination from Ethan. And that because I can see obviously Capcom have announced previously that it's going to be a big different thing that could be upset a lot of Resident Evil fans. Making Chris a villain could really upset people. I could understand him going in that direction. With everything he's been through, his mental state has to be a complete utter mess with everything that's happened. But I truly don't see them turning Chris into a fully fledged child killer. What I would expect is this to have been part of the virus, Ethan to have hallucinated. Sorry, my voice is going. Ethan to have hallucinated everything that's happened. Maybe he actually he has all these fears of stuff like that happening because of the condition of his child. And maybe the virus works by bringing your worst fears out, kind of thing, which would make a lot of sense. So moving on from there, so we've got a thing called the Ethan's track here. So Ethan has to make his way through the mountains. There have been disappearances in this region, unexplained. You will also start off defenseless before getting your first weapon a bit later on. So it looks like we're combining a bit of the original Resident Evils, where there's been mysterious deaths, people going missing, etc., etc., into the beginning of Resident Evil 7, where you're completely defenseless and then find something later on. So we've got a bit more information here on the enemies of Resident Evil 8 as well, if this be true or not. So the main enemies are to be zombies, the pale like human enemies. Welcome back again, guys, sorry about that. We're having a quick discussion on the enemies that have supposedly been leaked for Resident Evil 8, so I'll carry on reading this. So the main enemies are zombies and pale human-like enemies that resemble Gandos. Dogs, wolves, and enemies that resemble lickers do also appear. There are zombies with swords, knives, and clubs. They appear mainly in the later section of the game where you enter the castle. So that's going back to a bit of Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, where they've weaponized some of them. So that's it. I think the biggest thing here is the storyline related to Chris. Like I said before, I do believe it'll be hallucination based. I don't believe that Chris will act that way, but I can understand why he would. If that does happen, it'd be really interesting to see where the storyline goes with Chris and the other members. Is Chris going to be hunted down as an enemy, etc., etc.? But yeah, guys, please let me know what you think in the comments. I think this is some brilliant news. Please remember as well that these are only rumours. This may not actually be true, but it has to have come from somewhere. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye.